One mission, multiple locations with a single pursuit: to impact Kansas City and beyond. Loving Jesus in response to His first love. Becoming like Jesus by the power of God's Spirit. Sharing Jesus because He is the hope of the world. What if a church led by prayer, united for something greater, became kingdom risk-takers to reveal the life found in the Bible, to wrap around the lost, the last and the least in our city and around the world, to love and serve our neighbors, to build Christ-centered families? We will not rest until everyone knows they are loved as Christ has loved us. Westside Family Church. Loving Jesus, becoming like Jesus, sharing Jesus. We go further together.
Hey, Westside Online, thank you for joining us. One is a movement where all these churches are coming together to teach through the Gospel of John, examining the I am statements that Jesus made. This week, we are examining the statement, I am the Good Shepherd. Now, what does that mean for you in modern times, in your life? We're gonna find out together, but we're gonna start out with a little bit of worship first. Thanks for being with us.
Westside, let's go ahead and stand to our feet. I'm not defined by the fear that was holding me. I'm not afraid to become who I'm meant to be. I know, your love has made me new. Sing, you brought me back. You brought me back to life. By your grace I'm free. I'm walking in the light. New identity. You call me by my name, and I'm forever yours, yours. I am a child of God. I'm free. I am a child of God. I believe that I'm a new creation. Jesus, you're my salvation. I am a child of God. I am a child, I'm a child of God. I am a child. I'm stepping into the plans that you have for me. All of my life in your hands, I need you to lead. I know, I'm gonna follow you. Let's sing, you brought me back, here we go. You brought me back to life. By your grace I'm free. I'm walking in the light. New identity. You call me by my name, and I'm forever yours. I am a child of God. I'm free. I am a child of God. I believe that I'm a new creation. Jesus, you're my salvation. I am a child of God. I am a child, I'm a child of God. I am a child, I'm a child. 'Cause you never give up, never let go. Call me your child, call me your own. You never give up, you never give up, never let go. Call me your child, call me your own. I am a child of God. I'm free, come on. I am a child of God. I believe that I'm a new creation. Jesus, you're my salvation. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a child, I'm a child of God. I am a child, I'm a child of God. I am a child, I'm a child of God. I am a child, I'm a child of God.
Can all the children of God put your hands together? Hallelujah, hallelujah. We are glad that you are in this room, and we are glad that you've joined us online. I'm a child of God. Point to yourself, I'm a child of God, I'm a child of God, I'm a child of God. But today, guess what? We're going to talk about I am the Good Shepherd. Hallelujah. God is a good shepherd, and we have to be good shepherds over things too. So we're going to dive deeper into that. Go ahead and have a seat. There's a word just for you.
Welcome to Westside. We are so glad you're here, and we'd love to stay connected. Every week, there are lots of things happening here, so we've made it easy for you to stay in the know. Subscribe to our weekly e-news, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or download the Westside app where you can find some upcoming events, message notes, and so much more. Westside also has a text, so save this number on the screen as a great way to send in prayer requests or ask questions. And as always, you can find us online at westsidefamily.church.
Are you ready to discover or grow deeper in your relationship with Jesus? Then don't delay. Plan now to participate in our next Get Connected experience. Get Connected is a 3-week experience where you'll find acceptance, a challenge to grow closer to Jesus, and consistent encouragement as you identify and take your next steps with Jesus. The Get Connected experience happens on the first 3 Sundays of every month. Register at westsidefamily.church/getconnected.
Resurrection Weekend is right around the corner on April 15th, 16th, and 17th. Thousands of your friends and family and people we haven't even met will gather at all of our locations. Some looking for friendship, some looking to reconnect with God, all looking for hope. So we want to be ready.
We've been working behind the scenes to create an inspiring service and engaging kids programs. Now, this is where you play your part. It takes all of us coming together to create a welcoming environment that will help people take their next step toward Jesus.
Come to one and serve at one gathering this Resurrection Weekend. Come with your friends and your family and experience powerful Good Friday and Resurrection gatherings, and then invest your life in serving at another. It could be your smile or simple act of hospitality that could be a part of changing the trajectory of somebody's life. Don't miss out on that.
Just text SERVE to Westside at 855-674-0709 to sign up. Thank you, Westside.
Parenting is hard work, especially in this day and age where fiery darts seem to come at you and your children from every direction. Westside wants you to know we stand with you. The responsibility of guiding a child's heart and walking with them as they grow in their relationship with Jesus is a big deal. Parent dedication is a special time we set aside for parents to publicly dedicate themselves, their child, and their efforts to God. It is our sincere hope that through our efforts together, when children are old enough to understand, they too will choose to follow Christ and be raised to life through baptism. Parent dedication has 2 parts, a preparation dinner on April 3rd and an in-service dedication on May 1st. To sign up or get more information, visit westsidefamily.church/parent dedication.
Hey, church, how are you? Awesome to be with you here in this room. Greetings to our South Sanctuary Speedway, our online community. It's awesome to be with you. We're in this series where we're looking at the I am statements of Jesus. We're super radical, very scandalous, because he's basically saying 7 different ways, I am God, which is absolutely, in the minds of those who first heard it, blasphemous. And we're looking today at when he says, I am the good shepherd. I'm just going to tell you right out of the gate, here's the question I'm going to ask you at the end of our time. Jesus says, I am the good shepherd. I'm just going to simply ask you, so who's shepherding you? Really? All right, so be thinking about that. And you're like, wow, you just saved me a lot of time. We're done? Is that the whole deal? That's basically the whole deal, but here's the problem. The problem is when we talk about sheep and shepherds, we're not hip to that concept. We have no idea, really, most of us, what a shepherd is, what a shepherd does, much about sheep. How many of you, I'm just curious, let me just do a quick survey. How many of you, you are in the medical field in some nature? Doctor, right, frontline responder, awesome. How many of you are attorneys or work in law and something like that? Okay, it's okay. You can raise your hand. We're a loving, accepting place. It's okay. How many of you are shepherds? Oh, serious? Awesome. All right, we got a couple. By and large, the fact that we are landlocked here in suburbia, we don't quite know how to access the words when Jesus says, I am the good shepherd. And we don't know how to process when I say, so who's shepherding you? So we got to unpack that. And here's why I know that. I know that because when we study culture, we just see that shepherds are not revealed in our culture. How do we know that? Well, when you look at the March Madness brackets, how many of the mascots are shepherds? Very few. What makes a good mascot? Somebody that's like tough and mean and gnarly and all this. In fact, let's look at a few mascots and you can cheer if any of these are your team or if they're still left, right? So you got your typical lions, tigers, and bears. Why? Because sorry, Baylor, because they're just really, really, they're mean, they're fierce, they're fearsome, right? Then you got dogs. There's a lot of dogs, right? You got the huskies in there, and then you've got some historical dogs like the volunteers. Then you got cats. Way too many cats. You got lots of cats, right? And then you got birds. So that's a really angry blue jay. Blue jays are mean, by the way. That's why that's that. Right? And I think did we skip one? Did we skip the peacock? Right? Yeah, that one's sad. That one's very sad, right? And then here's a bird that might be of interest to some of us. This is, does anybody know the name of this? No, yeah, that's good. This is ibis, right? And there's great ibis bread down the street. That's not to be confused with the ibis bird. What makes ibis bird famous? One is they're very communal. That's the good part. What's the other part? Not so good. They eat their own. They eat their young, right? So I don't mean to judge or anything, but if I were picking a mascot, I wouldn't pick something like cannibalistic like that. So I don't know. Anyways, that bothers me. Anyways, then you got dragons. Why would you have a mascot dragon? Because they breathe fire. Horned frog, which is weird. Then you've got Spider, the Richmond spider. Spider's, scary, bad. I had a friend just text me not too long ago, said I got bit by a spider, have to have surgery. You don't want a spider. That's why spiders are a mascot. Then you got your typical pirate, right? You got your raider. And then I don't know why you have that. I think that there should be a campaign against that. Why would you have a devil as a mascot? Explain that to me. I don't know. Like Coach K, don't like the mascot. Now, when you think about shepherds, the closest that you get is this right here, the friar. And if you look closely, the friar is giving us the finger, is what it's doing, for obvious reasons. So all this to say, when Jesus says, I'm the good shepherd, and when I'm gonna ask you who is shepherding you, we have maybe a soft kind of vision. We have kind of this veneer of sentimentality. And if there were a shepherd, it would look like this. That's not a scary mascot. Right. Who wants a mascot where you go, oh, that's so cute and cuddly. See, there are 3 obstacles that we have in our modern day to understanding sheep and shepherds. And the first one is when Jesus talked about sheep and shepherds, what they heard in their day was slingers. What we think of is precious moments. Now, what do I mean by slingers? Not swingers, slingers. Let's be really clear. All right. So back in that day, in the military, there were basically 3 forms of fighters. You had your archer, you had your infantry, and you had your slinger. The slinger is the one that carried a slingshot. What does a shepherd carry? Shepherd carries a stick and a slingshot. They are out in the wilderness. They live out there. They have to be prepared for any contingency, anything that might come their way. Robbers, thieves, wild beasts, you name it, they're ready because they are skilled with the slingshot. They are a slinger. And let it not be mistaken, that is super hardcore in a great book. Malcolm Gladwell, if you haven't read this, on David and Goliath, he does some research. How could David take down the giant Goliath with just a few smooth stones and a slingshot? And here's why. An experienced slinger could kill or seriously injure a target at a distance of up to 200 yards with a stone. That's like twice as far as Patrick Mahomes can throw a football. This is crazy. And get this, the Romans even had a special set of tongs made just to remove stones that had been embedded in some poor soldier's body by a sling. Is that hardcore? Is that what you thought of when Jesus says, I am the good shepherd? Somebody with a slingshot that can sling that sucker with precision for 200 yards? Does that change a little bit of possibly your view? I mean, like if you did 4-H or if you're like an Eagle Scout, that doesn't hold a candle to what a shepherd is. I mean, I think maybe the best comparison, modern day comp, would be a trucker today. The similarities are probably, truckers are hardcore, right? And they got cool hats, right? But they travel with their inventory like shepherds. They sleep with their inventory. Showers are a premium and they pack heat, man. So just, I don't know if that helps kind of reframe it for you, but when Jesus says, I'm the good shepherd, suddenly that changes things for me. And who's shepherding you? All right, number two, the second obstacle is that when Jesus said, I'm the good shepherd, they, in that time, in Jesus' day, they knew the backstory to what he was saying. And we kind of tend to think that we are the story. What do I mean by that? Well, in our kind of modern day context, we kind of forget that things came before us and things are coming after us. We are, and I think I'm making up a word, we're chronocentric. We're all just focused about us and our time in this moment in history. So when we come to the Bible, we look at something like John 10 and we just instantly go, well, what does this mean for me? And how does this apply? But what were they thinking when Jesus first said it? What were they thinking when there was over, and still is, when there's 500 different references to sheep and to shepherds in the Bible? So rich with imagery about sheep and shepherds. What was going on in the backstory? See, God is always weaving, and we know this, Westside, don't we? God's always weaving this redemptive story. From way back then to the time of Jesus to now, we are invited into this story that God is constantly weaving and redeeming until that day that he makes all things new. So let's go back into the story because I think it will completely unpack what Jesus was saying and what it means for you and for me. So of the 500 different references, I think what is echoing the loudest in the ears of those that are hearing it is Ezekiel chapter 34. Ezekiel was a prophet from about 600 years before the time that Jesus says, I'm the good shepherd. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to read a chunk out of Ezekiel 34. Then we're going to go to the New Testament, read a chunk out of John. And I know we're a soundbite culture, at large. It's hard to stay engaged. I go, stay engaged here. This is really, really important. Ezekiel chapter 34, grab your old school Bible, grab your Westside app, and follow along. We're going to start right at verse 1. The word of the Lord came to me, Ezekiel writes. Son of man, mark that, son of man, prophesy against the what? The shepherds of Israel, using shepherd metaphor here. Prophesy and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Woe to you, shepherds of Israel, who only take care of yourselves. Should not shepherds take care of the flock? You eat the curds, clothe yourselves with the wool, and slaughter the choice animals, but you do not take care of the flock. You have not strengthened the weak, or healed the sick, or bound up the injured. You have not brought back the strays, or searched for the lost. You have ruled them harshly and brutally. So they were scattered because there was no shepherd. And when they were scattered, they became food for all the wild animals. My sheep, God says, my sheep wandered all over the mountains and on every high hill. They were scattered over the whole earth, and no one searched for them or looked for them. Now that's a serious critique. That is quite a polemic against who? The religious leaders 600 years before the time of Jesus. So what does God say as we continue Isaiah 34? What's his solution? Verse 15. I myself then will tend my sheep and have them lie down, declares the sovereign Lord. I will search for the lost and bring back the strays. I will bind up the injured and strengthen the weak, but the sleek and the strong I will destroy. I will shepherd the flock with justice. Now, how will we do it? How will we do it? Let's jump to verse 23. By the way, if you have time, just go read the whole passage. It's so rich. He goes, I will place over them one shepherd, my servant David, and he will tend them. He will tend them and be their shepherd. He's talking now about the messianic line of David. Somebody's going to come from the ancestral line of David, and he's going to be that shepherd. And I, the Lord, will be their God, and my servant David will be prince among them. I, the Lord, have spoken. So when Jesus says, I am the good shepherd, everyone sitting around there, they're thinking, okay, the Lord is my shepherd. They're thinking Psalm 23. They're thinking of all these different other shepherds. But I think the loudest thing screaming to them is where God, through Ezekiel, brings this scathing critique. You are supposed to be the shepherds of my flock, my sheep, and you're dropping the ball. Worse than that, you're brutally treating them harshly. So what's my solution? I'll do it. Because I love them and I care for them. How will I do it? I will select one shepherd from the line of David to do it. All right, that's the backstory. You ready for the story that Jesus tells? Yeah, that would be good if you were ready. So where do we go then? Where do we go? John what? No. Thank you for playing. No, we're going to go to John 9. Why? Why? Because you never just start somewhere. You got to read backwards before you can read forward. You got to get the context. And what's the context leading into John 10? Here's the context. A man is blind. He's been blind since birth. And he encounters Jesus, and Jesus decides to heal him. So what does he do? He spits on the ground, forms little mud cakes, puts it on his eyes. Very gross, but incredibly powerful. The guy can see. Here's the problem. The problem is it's on the Sabbath. Not allowed to do good stuff on the Sabbath, apparently, according to the religious leaders. So an inquisition ensues. They first go to the parents of this man, and they're really kind of smart. They're like, hey, he's of age, he can answer for himself. So then they go to him, and he's got a lot of sass, and he's giving them business back. And he's like, I don't know, you guys don't seem like you're really all that smart if you're supposed to be the religious leaders. So he's throwing it back at them, and that leads us to verse 34. To this, the religious leaders replied to the man who was once blind and now can see, you were steeped in sin at birth. How dare you lecture us? And they threw him out. What was the scathing critique in Ezekiel? You did not go and find them. You treated them harshly and brutally, and they're left to defend for themselves. They are scattered. Verse 35, Jesus heard that they had thrown him out. And when he found him, what does a good shepherd do? When he found him, he said, do you believe in the what? Son of Man. And the man goes, well, who is he, sir? And Jesus is like, well, I'm pretty much him. Great. And the next thing, it leads to this beautiful moment of the man giving his life to Jesus and literally worshiping him. And then Jesus goes on to say, here's the deal. There's plenty of people who are today blind, but then they'll see. But there are people today who see who will be blind. And the Pharisees, the religious elite, they're sitting around going, are you talking about us? Are we the ones who see now and you're going to say that we're going to be blind? And Jesus is like, pretty much, I'm talking about you. And then John 10:1 begins. Now you just got to remember, in the Bible originally when it was written, no chapters, no verses, no paragraph breaks, no parenthetical inserts, no chapter headings. It's just all one stream. We are often so disserved by those breaks because we think it's a whole different thing. It's not a different thing. Jesus just takes them to the mat, and then he tells a story about sheep and shepherds that goes like this. We're going to go 21 verses long. Follow with me. Very truly, Jesus says, I tell you, Pharisees, the very ones who are offended about thinking that they see, but they're going to become blind, the very ones that kicked the man out of the synagogue that Jesus went and found. Very truly, I tell you, Pharisees, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way is a thief and a robber. Oh, could you imagine being one of the Pharisees sitting around? Whoo! The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. This is what the good shepherd does. When he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. But they will never, ever follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. Now, Jesus used this figure of speech, but the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. Therefore, Jesus gives it another shot. Very truly, I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. Pastor Troy did a beautiful job unpacking this. There's kind of this metaphor within the metaphor. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in. This is beautiful. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief, and we'll come back to this. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. I'm the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. The man runs away because he is a hired hand, that's why, and cares nothing for the sheep. I'm the good shepherd. I know my sheep and my sheep know me. Just as the Father knows me and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep, that's us, by the way. I have other sheep that are not of the sheep pen. I must bring them in also. They too will listen to my voice, and there will be one flock and one shepherd. This is what we're doing with the one campaign, right? One flock, one shepherd all over the world. We're all reading this passage right here today, thousands of us. How cool is that? One flock, one shepherd. The reason, Jesus says, my Father loves me is that I lay down my life. Not only that, but I'll take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again. This command I received from my Father. Now, the Jews who heard these words were again divided. Many of them said, he is demon-possessed, he is raving mad, why listen to him? But others said, these are not the sayings of a man possessed by a demon. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind? Do you see how the context is all there? Do you see how it's all one conversation? Right? What's Jesus saying here? He's saying, Ezekiel heard right. He heard right. 600 years ago, when the sovereign Lord spoke to him and said, Son of man, hear my words, he heard right. All the prophecies, all the promises of hundreds of years before, Jesus is saying, they are being found in me as the good shepherd. And I'm going to distinguish between a bad shepherd and a good shepherd. But what Ezekiel heard, he heard right, and that's being fulfilled in me. Do you see the story being woven together? Isn't that cool? Isn't it just one of those things you just go, oh my gosh, I always want to read backwards before I read forwards. I'm missing so much unless I do. Now, there's one more obstacle for us to fully understand this, and it's we have to get into what scholars call the Sitzen Leben, the situation in life of what was going on at that time, if you and I are going to truly be able to process, I am the good shepherd, and who's shepherding you and who's shepherding me, and it's this, that when Jesus talked about sheep and shepherds, the people of his day, they thought business enterprise, and we think petting zoo. Think about that. When you think about a sheep or shepherd, or you think of some new weird yoga, this is maybe what you think of, right? Like goat yoga, there's sheep yoga, I don't know, right? But we don't think what they think with the metaphor that Jesus would invoke. Sheep were everywhere in that society, and they were an agrarian and what's called a pastoral society, which means a shepherding society. This was a business enterprise. And in order to understand what Jesus is saying, let's unpack what it would have been like to have been a shepherd, to have owned a business in that day. All right, so let's just say we're a community, and we're gonna start a shepherding business. Are you in? Okay, what's the first thing that we need? No, I'm sorry, I don't mean to do this like ask question and then make you wrong thing. It's not good. I'll stop with questions, I guess. No, we need a name. Don't you need a name, right? Okay, so here's the name. I love this name. You wanna play on like wool and woolly and all that stuff, right? So here's the name. We're gonna call it Woolay. Isn't that cool? It's I don't know, it's kind of whimsy, but you get the wool thing, you get the woolly thing, and it's got that French kind of Yoplait kind of feel and everything. By the way, it's available on a domain. It's totally free. You can get it right here today. I'm just saying. It's really nice. Okay, so this is the name of our company. And I want to ask what's the first thing you need to start a company after you have a name. But I won't ask it. I'll just tell you, it's money. You need money, right? So you need investors. And in the time of Jesus, like when he would tell the story about the one sheep out of the 99, most likely the whole village had been investors in that flock. So when Jesus came, or in the story when the shepherd came back and said, celebrate with me, why are they celebrating? Because they were all invested in the flock. So you need your own kind of private equity firm, right? You need somebody to fund this thing. And then the next thing that you're gonna go do is you're gonna build your infrastructure, or let's just say you're gonna scale, right? And you're gonna need to figure out, okay, what are the natural resources? What's the land that we're gonna graze? You're gonna probably establish some land use permits, and you're going to hire some people. You need a shepherd, and Jesus says there's basically two kinds. There's one who's part of the ownership group that will serve as a shepherd, or there's somebody you hired out called a hireling, right? So you need labor. Then, once you're set and ready, time to launch, with exception to, you need inventory. And what is your inventory? Yes, it is sheep. And let's just do a little breakdown. I had to look this up. What's the female sheep? You got a ewe. That's right. And then what's the male sheep? You got a ram. That's right. And then a ewe and a ram get together and they make a what? Food, right? They make a lamb, right? So just quick little schooling there. It's good to know about your business, so it's good to do some market research, learn those things. Okay, so then you launch and you go into what we'll just call the growth phase. This is everything with, hopefully, if you've selected good inventory, they're healthy, they're vibrant, they're fertile. You're going to multiply your flock. You also are going to tend to them. You're going to make sure they're well fed, they're well cared for. Talked to a friend of mine who knows a bunch about this business, and I asked him, his name is Matt. I said, Matt, when you read John 10, what do you think of? He goes, I think about a business all the time. He goes, and this is the most important. You're timing the market here. You're timing the breeding here. You're doing your growth rate plan here. Your profit margins, you win or lose here, he says. And he goes, actually, if you love on the animals, the meat will be more tender and flavorful. Everything here is really important. He says, if you have 100 sheep, well, from a profit perspective, let's say about 80 of those sheep cover your costs. 20 of those sheep is, that's your profit margin. You lose one or two or a handful, that's cutting deep into your margins. He said, so you got to make sure they don't wander off. You got to make sure they don't get sick. They don't infect the rest of the flock. They got to be treated, all sorts of things. Very, very important. So then from the growth phase, as you're doing that, then you're going to go to market. Now, when you go to market and you own sheep, that means typically two main things. One is you're going to get them sheared for what? For wool, for clothes. And you're going to slaughter them for what? For lamb chops, right? There's also a third, which is for curd. Typically in Jesus' day, that was more for their wool than for their food there. All right, so then you go to market. Hopefully you've timed it right. Hopefully that's all worked out, because then you've got profit. And with the profit, you're going to reinvest. You're going to pay off your debts for your inventory, for all of your scaling, for all of your growth. And there is the business cycle for Wule. Who's in? All right, good. Now, why did we do this? As interesting as it may be, why do we do this? What is Jesus doing here? Why do we need to know this? The first thing I'll tell you that what Jesus is doing is he is deconstructing destructive religion. Just like Ezekiel was, Jesus is deconstructing destructive religion. I think it's important that we just name that because of where we find ourselves today. You might have a son or daughter who is deconstructing their faith. You might be here today just going, all of these things, I don't know what to make sense of what anymore. You're going through a deconstructive phase. You might be online going, I don't even know if I can walk through the doors of a church. It's all I can barely do is just to still engage online because what you once thought you knew, you no longer knew. And why is this important? Because a lot of deconstruction happens when we are led by bad shepherds. By bad shepherds. And that's the critique that Jesus is bringing. What's the critique from Ezekiel? The critique of the bad shepherds in Ezekiel 34 is you're not doing the full business cycle so that the whole community wins. There's no profit sharing. You don't even take anything to market. Why? Because you keep it all for yourself. The other critique is you don't go after those who are sick. You don't bind up those who are hurt. You don't go after those who are lost. You have an unsustainable model. And it's all about you. And so many of us have experienced bad shepherding where it was all about them. And here's all I want you to hear. That's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother series around deconstruction. It's really a hot topic in our culture today. But you just need to know, if you're in this place where it feels like a rattling underneath your feet, you need to know that Jesus was the master deconstructor. Jesus deconstructed just about everything. Bad theology, bad ideology, bad shepherding. He deconstructed even what they understood family to be. He deconstructed everything so that he could reconstruct our understanding of who God is at his very deep and beautiful heart. And so if you're in a place just feeling like, man, everything, I just don't know what to hold on to Jesus and join him in the deconstruction. A lot more we can say about that, but I think it's a really important point to mark here in this moment. That Jesus, if we let him, if you deconstruct on your own, dead end. It really will be. But if you just fix your eyes on Jesus, let him do the deconstructing for you, freedom and life. What else is Jesus doing here? In John chapter 10, what is he doing? He is subverting this entire business model. He's separating out the bad shepherds from what he's describing himself as the good shepherd. What does a typical shepherd do? Typical shepherd walks through this process. You get sheep, you grow them up, you get them sheared, you get them slaughtered, you take a profit, you reinvest, you pay off your debts. That's what a typical sheep does. What is Jesus saying he will do as the good shepherd who lays down his life? He's saying, I will take myself to market. I am the one who will be sheared on your behalf. I am the one who will be slaughtered on your behalf, and I won't even say a word. And actually, we go back another 600 years to the prophet Isaiah, to Isaiah 53. And look at this with me. This is stunning. What does he say about the coming Messiah? What does he say? We all, you and me, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us turned our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed, this Messiah, this rescuer. Now we would say, this Jesus. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent. So he did not open his mouth. So he did not open his mouth. Jesus subverts the entire business model, and he does what no other shepherd, bad or decent, would do. He says, I'll take myself to market. The Apostle Paul says, look, the wages, talking about transaction economy, the wages of our sin, of being like sheep and all being led astray, is death. We all deserve to go to the market. But Jesus says, I'll go for you. That's what he means by good. I'm a good shepherd. I think we'd put it this way. I'm that good. I'm unlike any other shepherd that you've ever known. The bad shepherds, they'll take from you. They'll prey upon your vulnerabilities. They'll scatter when things get rough. They'll set you up, and then they'll laugh when you fall. And we all have shepherds like that in our life. Could be a relationship that you know is destructive. You need to deconstruct that relationship. By the way, if it's in the confines of marriage, there's beautiful reconstruction ahead. But you might need to deconstruct some patterns. Could be influences, could be your news feed, could be your ideology. Jesus wants to deconstruct it all as the good shepherd. He wants to say, look, I know others will prey upon your vulnerabilities. I'm going to protect you. I know that others will scatter when things get hard. I will stand post with my slingshot in hand, and there are no tongs that will ever get out what I can fire. Bad shepherds will leave you constantly agitated and insecure. A good shepherd will ground you and lead you in and out, as Jesus says. The good shepherd, he says, I know you by name. I know like every hair on your head. And you're gonna know my voice increasingly. And when you hear my voice, apart from every other voice, you'll follow, because you know when you follow me, you'll find life. You'll find pasture. You'll find freedom. And so who's shepherding you? Really? Really, who's shepherding you? Because the final part of this little segment of the story is Jesus says, I laid down my life, but he also says, and I've been given authority to take it back. To take it back. Means he went to market, but now he's transcended everything as our risen Lord. And that's what we call Easter. That's what we call Resurrection Sunday. That's what we're preparing our hearts for. The one that says, I'll lay my life down, I'll go to market for you, but then I'll actually take my life back so that you can have that abundant life in me. And by the way, I totally forgot to say this, so forgive me. But I want to ask the question, when Jesus says that the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I've come to give you life, who's the thief? Who's the thief? We all traditionally have said that's Satan, right? Well, I certainly Satan, believe he could be behind it. I believe that there is a Satan, an enemy of God, but that's not what I see in this passage. Who's the thief in this passage? It's the bad shepherds. It's the religious leaders. That's been the whole critique along. And I just wonder if the bad shepherd in your life has been killing, stealing, and destroying that sweet, rich life for you. And so, we're gearing up for Easter Sunday. A few quick kind of housekeeping things. One is, are you coming? Are you coming? All right, online, great. 2, who are you gonna bring? Who are you gonna bring that they have been shepherdly poorly? They have been treated harshly, brutally. They have been scattered and left vulnerable. Who in your life and in your relationships are you just gonna give them a simple ask, say, come with me and meet the good shepherd? Who's that? Be marking that, be giving them invitation. You can go online and learn about our services and times and all of those things. Secondly, we need you to kind of help shepherd with us. Let's be shepherds. We need volunteers, so sign up on any one of those service times. And lastly, both today and on that day, we're gonna have the water open for anyone who just says, I've been shepherded so poorly and I'm ready to give my life to the good shepherd. And I want everyone to know, and so I'm gonna go into the waters and I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna say away and done with my old life and all the bad shepherding. I'm gonna come up out of the waters saying, I am walking in new life with the good shepherd. And if you haven't done that, maybe you've given yourself to Jesus, but you've never made it public, you've never locked arms with your community, I'd say, why wait? Like, do it now. Leave like wet marks, like make us trip as we're trying to walk to our cars because it's slippery, because you went in the water and made a mess and you came out alive. Who's up for that? So you can sign up and be a part of the Easter baptism, or you can do it right now. I just say, don't wait. Because it hurts. It hurts to be under bad shepherding. And that's no way to live. In Jesus' name, if you're able, stand and let's sing. Amen.
By
I hear the phrase, I'm the good shepherd, I can think of a lot of different times in my life that meant a lot to me. None bigger for sure than in my high school experience. I was going through a lot of family stuff. My dad was really in and out of the picture, and we were going through a lot as a family, and I kind of ran from God. I started to prioritize all these other things in my life. I started to make things more important, the things that made me feel better and the things that I was going through more important than who God was in my life. But consistently throughout the course of my life, in the form of youth pastors, volunteers, leaders, friends who were there for me, they never let me go too far. They would always come back to me and talk to me about how God has a purpose for my life, and there's something really unique that He wants to do in my life and in my world. And from that, I always was able to kind of get redirected onto the right path, because God was using the people in my life to make sure I never strayed too far from Him. He always was there as the good shepherd who was watching over me and guiding me back, even when I tried to run as far as I could.
Darkness, we were waiting without hope, without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word, from a throne of endless glory to a cradle in the dirt.
They say this mountain can't be moved. They say these chains will never break. But they don't know you like we do. There is power in your name. We've heard that there is no way through. We've heard the tide will never change. They haven't seen what you can do. There is power in your name. So much power in your name. If you know it, say it. Move the immovable, break the unbreakable. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. From the impossible, we'll see a miracle. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. We know that hope is never lost. This is good news. For there is still an empty grave. Yes, Lord. God, we believe no matter what, there is power in your name. So much power in your name. Oh yeah. Move the immovable, break the unbreakable. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. From the impossible, we'll see a miracle. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. Yes, we do, Jesus. You are the way when there seems to be no way. We trust in you, God, you have the final say. You are the way when there seems to be no way. We trust in you, God, you have the final say. Hey, you are the way when there seems to be no way. We trust in you, God, you have the final say. So yeah, move the immovable, break the unbreakable. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. From the impossible, we'll see a miracle. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. Move the immovable, break the unbreakable. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. From the impossible, we'll see a miracle. We believe. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. We believe your word. We trust your word. Listen, I don't know if God has said something to you, spoken a word over your life. He said something and promised you something yesterday, 10 years ago, a few months ago. He's faithful to perform it. Sometimes as a believer, our only job is to believe. And when we believe what God has said, then we will see what God has said. You said, I believed. You said, it is done. You said, I believe. Lord, you said, it is done. Come on, help us. You wash away. I trust you for everything. Woo. And I doubt you for nothing. You said, so I believe it. You said it, so it is finished, it's done. Yeah, move the unmovable, break the unbreakable. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. If you believe it, receive it. Hallelujah. What a mighty God we serve. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Well, church, we're at the end of the road, and we want to invite you out to Westside and 4 if you're newer here. We'd love to get to know you personally and welcome you to the Westside family. We want you to go out in the foyer. There's a big green sign that says new here. And we want you to go out and invite you out into the lobby so you can learn 4 things about Westside in 4 minutes, and you also will receive a gift, but it's going to help your family grow in your faith. Family, take the Lord along with you everywhere you go and believe on everything that the scripture has said about you. In Jesus' name, have a blessed Sunday.
Hey, Westside Online. Thanks for joining us today. We have Carlton and Trish.
Hello.
Carlton, how long have you been on the worship team?
Oh, man, worship teams. Yeah, so I have been coming here since 2010, and probably a year or so after, hearing Troy Kennedy at the time saying, hey, if you're interested in joining the worship team. So it may have been a year later. So, man, I might be going, pretty close to 10, 11 years now.
And I'm sure you guys watch, but is Carlton led today? Is this your first time leading?
So that,
sort of
where Mitch was like, go ahead and do the ad libs. That's what we want. So that's the first time that, he's like Carlton Unchained. It was fun.
I'm excited. I love to see the expansion. Yes, if anyone wants to lead any song outside of me and Mitch, I'm glad that you took it on.
It's so fun, and I'm so appreciative.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Are your brackets busted? Did you do the March Madness
I didn't
brackets?
do a bracket, but if I had, I would have not been anywhere close to where we are now, the final 8 teams. I'm a KU fan, so I'm glad that they're still going.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can win it all. But, man, what a great story in St. Peter's, too, as well. Like a 15 seed making it.
The first time.
Yeah, first time. So I'm very excited to see that.
That's very, that is very cool. I heard some odds. It's like 1 in 9 quintillion to have a perfect bracket.
Oh, yeah. It's never happened. It's one of those things.
If the guys watching TV can't get it right, I don't feel like I'm going to get it right.
Chance.
But I feel like what we did get right today was Dan's message was just excellent. So start at the top. What does I am the Good Shepherd, what does that mean to each of you when you hear that? Maybe even before or after this message, because my perspective has changed a little bit.
I know, because he kind of broke the good down. Because listen, there's shepherd, and when you think of anything good, whether that's a shepherd or a housewife or a healthcare worker, it doesn't matter. Anybody with a title that's something that's supposed to be good. Sometimes it's not always that way, but knowing that he put the good in front of shepherd, because he knows there's just shepherds, but I need you to know who I am. Like, I need you to know the difference between Ty the shepherd, Carlton the shepherd, Trish the shepherd. There's a good shepherd, and I just think that means I'm really kind of set apart from the rest, but God being a good shepherd, he leads me, he guides me, he orders my steps. Literally, like the scripture, he leading me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake, and all those things. Like literally, you were saying in the last Q&A how God is shepherding you through, and like your wife shepherds you through things too. But it's like knowing that he has your hand like every step of the way. And generally you can't always find that in people. So I think that's why he puts the emphasis on I'm good, like a good father. And just, you know, I'll just leave it there. He's a good shepherd based off of just what he does and who he is to us, and how he just really is a God that when you feel empty and alone, like he's literally there if you just access him, you know?
Yeah, you know, shepherd, man. If you just look back historically, what it meant to be a shepherd. So outside of the isolation, outside of the work, outside of the dedication, right? You're talking about livelihood. Like you're not out there for fun, right? If you lose any member of the flock, you take a hit to your livelihood. So there's a good shepherd. There's the dependable shepherd. You know, the one that's not going to phone it in. The one that's going to get up. There's the consistent shepherd, right? The one who's going to protect me and I can pin. You talk about humans. Oh man, people will let you down, right? But you've got that shepherd of the flock that we have in God, or the people who are godly in your life. And I think of consistency when I think of good. I think of dependability when I think of good. It's not only the knowledge, and the other thing about it is the shepherd wasn't afraid to protect his flock as well, right? A big stick was all by himself, and again, not letting anybody go because that was going to take a hit to the livelihood. So I've got a protecting shepherd as well. So those are the things that I think of.
That's so good.
It is.
I'm definitely one of those dumb sheep that God is like, hey,
this way.
He's whacking me with a staff. Like, this is for your own good. There's a lot of, I know it looks good, but there's a lot of bad stuff over there that you should not get into.
That is hilarious.
That is me for sure. Carlton, you shared your story a little bit. I was wondering if you'd share a little bit more. When do you feel like you kind of started to learn a little bit about Jesus, and then when was that moment where you're like, all right, he is a good shepherd?
Yeah, you know, so in elementary school, I just had the good fortune of a good shepherd who was listening. He saw bikes out in front of my house, and
that's how you knew where people were.
Right.
If you're a millennial, you just rode your bike to your friend's house,
everywhere.
so you saw all the bikes.
Your bike was your first taste of freedom.
Ty's here, John's here, Brian's here,
exactly.
Mitch is here.
So, yeah, you know, and a youth pastor just happened to be walking by and knocked on the door, which is, again, another thing that maybe doesn't happen all that much. You know, but a good shepherd that was listening, saw the bikes, connected to what he was doing and called to do as a youth pastor at the time, and knocked on the door and said, hey, anybody here interested in, you know, I do a Wednesday youth group. Every Wednesday evening, would you all like to come? And, you know, what I had shared in the morning Q&A, or the 8 o'clock Q&A, was that, you know, I grew up a single mom in South Kansas City, Missouri, and not a lot of resources. Mom doing everything she can, father not really around, and I had a really latched on once I understand it to that message of Jesus and God being a father to the fatherless, right? So that is where I got an introduction to. Hey, you're not alone.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, the path that I was able to navigate because of that intervention is only because of God. Just based on where I was and you know, the lack of resources. My mom even worked like a lot of night shifts, right? So I could just go wild if I wanted to. I didn't. I had a father. I had a father that may not have been there in the other room, but was with me and to guide me this way, that way. You know, hey, I don't think you want to do that. Like, were times where you could just really just hear, no, we're not doing that. We're going to go this way. You might want to stay away from that person. We want to go this way. And, you know, like I didn't always get it right. You know, I've had my knucklehead. I've been whacked with the shepherd's crook a few times myself, right? And those are some hard lessons to learn. But I feel very fortunate to have had you know, that shepherd in my life.
You were talking, and I couldn't help but to think how a good shepherd, he went before you. Before you were even born, but even, you know, that hypothetically just that day, you know, he purposely orchestrated the pastor to walk by you, you know, so that you could be introduced because you are fatherless and he knows all these things about you. So I feel that's another good shepherd. Like, Carlton doesn't know that this pastor's coming, but I have this pastor coming for Carlton. And that's just the beauty in it. Like, you would see things in hindsight like, wow, wait. that was God all along.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening now. As I look back on my life, so far removed, and just think about how fortunate I was, because at that age, that sometime between 10 and 12, and then into junior high and high school, making decisions
Very tender.
that no one told me to do. Like, no one was there sitting me down saying this and plotting out my course for me.
Right.
I just happened to go to church, be in youth groups. I would sing often too with the youth groups, and I would get latched onto some piece of the message, and within me.
Yeah.
We're talking zero awareness, zero. But within me, there was like this GPS. Just saying, hey, I need you to go this way. I need you to go. And thank God I had something in me that listened.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is good. That's the good news. That's
the
shepherd.
God positioning system that
Mm.
you gotta have in your heart.
I
that
like
keeps
it.
you-
God
that keeps you
positioning
going. But I was just listening to some Eric Thomas podcast the other day, and he was saying how the generational faithfulness is what it takes to reach people. Because if you're feeling that tug on your heart, like if he had just walked by, hey, I know those kids.
Yeah.
I know one of those kids is just, it's gonna be terrible if I go in there. But he said, I'm gonna go in there anyway.
And he found one. He found one.
And found one.
Yeah.
God, man.
Went after it. I love it so much. And Alec, who was our I am
Alec.
statement, he was here last week, and it's so great to hear from him in the student ministry, because that's what he's doing. He's saying, hey, I'm gonna. You don't always get it right, but I'm going to get alongside you, and we're going to figure this out together.
Such a powerful service.
It was. Oh my gosh, yeah.
What John 10:10? I'd never heard this, that the thief equated to the Pharisees. I've always heard it equated to the devil. But anybody reference it. So that was very interesting to me.
I love Revelation.
That's super direct.
Yeah.
So what is the thief that you have to watch out for in your life currently? If it's a person, don't say their name.
Okay, Ty, I won't say your name. I just think, and I'm going to always allude to things that I know are happening and why I think other things are happening. Literally, because time is short. It's winding up. So many thieves. Like, you could literally open your eyes in the morning, and because the cover wasn't on your foot, like that could be a thief. Like, literally, so many small things are triggering us nowadays, and I think it started with the pandemic. Some people are still at an all-time, sensitivity level, but literally our spirits are just so subject to anything that a thief could be a person, a thing, a place. Like, you just never know. So I feel I have thieves, but can I call, which one it could be? No, it could be, I'm a nonchalant person by nature. It comes with me. I don't purposely do it. So that could be a thief, because sometimes it's like, oh, church, but you don't care. Like, no, I do. I promise you. But it's like, to the next person, I could be robbing them of something. So, it's just, again, a thief could be anything, anybody, or any place, anything that you idolize can take the place of God and can take his position in your life. But I think conscious decisions to keep him at the center kind of keeps that thief away. And then specifically at night, he robs at nighttime. And again, Pharisees or the actual enemy, things that are done in the dark, like that's when he wants to come and to destroy while you're asleep, attack you in your sleep. Anxiety attacks when you wake up. All these types of things can be a thief, but I think, and I know that having God at the center and finding ways to just interject him, because we make everything complex sometimes. I have to pray. I have to spend 2 hours in the presence of God. That's great. But when a thief is about to rob you of something, of your happiness, you have to center yourself sometimes and ground yourself and say, no, speak an affirmation to yourself, or say something, call on God. Just say, Jesus, I need you, and be done. But access him when you need him. And I think it keeps the thieves away as much as possible anyway. So,
yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, again, as I think about this shepherding thing, when I finished school, undergrad, the job that I have now didn't even exist, right? So I lead health and wellness for the company that I work for, and there were no health and wellness leaders again, at the time that I finished nursing school, but to be in that position and just to listen to God, all the things that I did along the way, knowing that in my heart I would love to just have a job where all I do is take care of people, right? And so I'm in this role just very recently, just started this summer. I built a program on this idea of capacity. And there's nothing in the literature, there's nothing in research that says build your health and wellness on this concept of capacity. But the reason why I did it, particularly coming out of the pandemic, is because I just looked at everybody that I was there to shepherd myself in this role with like this plate, right? And if it's full, you can't really go and perform at a very high level. You know what I mean? And so capacity, how do I help people show up and achieve their full capability? And one of the things that robs people the most is that they're everywhere, but in the moment, right? Like they don't just sit and be present. They're thinking about the next thing they have to do, or they're thinking about something they didn't do as well as they had hoped, right? But they're everywhere except for in that moment. And that can rob you of opportunity, right? So if I'm not present for my kids when we wake up in the morning and I run out of coffee, or I didn't sleep well, right? And I'm thinking about how hard the day is going to be. If I'm not mindful and intentional about being present, I miss that moment. I miss that moment to connect with them before they head to school,
You
right?
become the thief.
Yeah, and I start robbing them as well, right? It snowballs. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's one of the things that I've really been trying, because sometimes I can just get overly involved.
Yes.
It can look like I'm too intense. Because I'm just so far over here, right? I'm just so far into the future that I'm not, reeling back and just being present in that moment. And you just get wrapped up in what people think, what they're going to say, how it's going to turn out. I'm just going to sit right here.
We talked about that stillness, though. We've been talking about that kind of since the fasting and praying. Sit still.
Be still.
But that's a thief. That's a thief for us, is busyness, right? When you got kids and they got to go here and there,
you got
and all that stuff, and then now we're both out of school, so now we have a house. But then you feel that pressure, like, oh, you need to get a bigger house or a newer car, that kind of rat race, and that's a thief for sure. Because I don't think I'll be happier in a bigger house.
Right.
God-centered, I'll try it. I mean, you can invest in this in the woolly, and we'll see where it goes. But I think sometimes your thief. There's probably some that are going to be with you your whole life. There's ones that are going to distract you. If you've lived in addiction, that's a thief you're going to have to battle for your whole life. But then there's thieves that are at the age that you're at, like the busyness thing wasn't a thing when you're young and in your 20s.
That's good. That's just true.
Whatever, but now it's
almost seems like every minute has got something you go to next.
Yeah.
But then I think the next this is years out, but like when you're getting close to retirement, that thief is it enough? Do I have enough? Then you're starting to think about,
we're never satisfied.
Living in Florida. Who wants to live in Florida? Do you guys want to live in Florida?
It's going to be a no for me.
Sorry, Florida, if you're watching.
Love you. Just can't live there.
Trish Carlton, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you for leading worship. What would you say to somebody, maybe this is their first time kind of exploring Jesus, what would you say to somebody who's in that seat right now?
I'd say lean in.
Yeah.
Lean in, listen, understand your current state and everything that we are coming out of and all of the pressures that are on you right now. But there is that stillness in Jesus, right? So if this is the first time, what a great time. Because you're probably coming out of a period where nothing has been still over the last couple of years. Oof. Here's some peace. I'd lean into that peace.
Yes, I would have to agree. It's just lean in. It's so imperative. In whatever crossroad that you find yourself, I'll say that you are enough. You are qualified. You are you're chosen. You are a peculiar people. That's what the scripture says. So I think as you lean into God, lean into the scriptures and lean into his word about what he says about you, so you can become stronger in who you are, so that when a thief comes to rob you, you know, like, my father made the lock, you know, so, and he's the door. So can you get through? I don't think so. So lean into Christ and he'll lean into you, basically. Yeah.
That's so good. That's such good advice. Well, if you have a question, put it in the chat. We'll do it one more time. So go make some breakfast. I was gonna say lamb chops, but I don't think people eat.
Okay. Well, it's about to be lunch, and
okay. So maybe you got to brine it and all that kind of stuff. Brunch. All right. Well, appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Take God with you everywhere you go.
Yeah. Bless.